first time someone mistakenly asked me if I was pregnant, I was 16 at a church brunch. The second time was by a carny at the fair, and when I said no, he asked me if it was twins. The third time, I was on a hotel shuttle on my way back from a wedding when the bus driver, who was barefoot and eating Funyuns, asked me, "So, what do you do?" When I said I was in school, she screamed out in reply, "No, when are you due?" In the words of my eloquent generation, what the fuck? I've been the same height since the 5th grade and enduring unsolicited asshole comments from strangers for just as long. So, the summer before I moved to North Carolina for college, I decided to lose the 15 pounds that I considered the key to my happiness. I figured the most efficient way for me to lose weight was for someone else to pay me to do so. So I Googled fat camps. On my application, I said I wanted to work at a fit camp to help young girls foster a healthy body image. I omitted my main objective. I wanted to wear shorts without getting 3rd-degree chub rub and not sweat when I ate. I was hired and soon on a plane to Massachusetts. Rounding the corner at baggage claim, I was greeted by a jovial but rotund new coworker. Us chubs gotta stick together. On my first night at camp, I settled into my un-air-conditioned dorm room. I was reading The Devil Wears Prada in my pink jammies and Chanel glasses with my window open because it was so effing hot when I heard a whistle. Looking outside, I found a tattooed Guido in an Italy jersey with a towel hanging out from the pocket of his cargo shorts. He hollered at me, "Yo, come hang out." It was the first night of my life to go to bed with my window open, and a man was calling to me from below. Ready to meet my John Cusack, I quickly put on a bra and headed downstairs to star in my own romantic comedy. His name was Marcus. He was in charge of the male staff and technically one of my bosses. 10 years my senior, he was confident and forward and told me at first glance that I was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. I, lonely and insecure and so desperate to be loved, quickly fell under his spell. On my first night off, I was riding in bed when Marcus knocked on my door. Grabbing one of my pigtails, he told me he liked my hair braided. It caught me by such surprise when he leaned over and kissed me. I replayed that moment in my head until I fell asleep, happy for the first time in forever. Every night after that, I would braid my hair and sneak over to Boys Hill to see Marcus after my campers were asleep. One night, Marcus was acting anxious, and I asked him what was wrong. I don't know how to say this, he stammered, but we either have to be everything or we have to be nothing. I was completely caught off guard. I barely knew Marcus, and I hadn't really taken the time to think about what I liked about him, or even if I liked him at all. I just liked being liked. I didn't want the attention and the affection to end, so I picked everything. Everything meant being committed to Marcus behind closed doors, because since he never acknowledged our relationship, I didn't either. We became an epically apparent secret couple. People definitely noticed something between us from our stolen glances and the way Marcus always found a way to be next to me. I could feel their whispers prickle my ears, but I assumed they talked about us because we were such a strange pairing. I wore full-skirted dresses and was planning a trip to Paris. He gambled recklessly and daydreamed about making it on the World Poker Tour. It was against all logic. I was the girl who loved boys named Hunter, who drove Chevy trucks, and fished and cited George W. Bush as their personal hero. I couldn't even imagine being friends with a heinously dressed Canadian who smoked weed and wore puka shell necklaces. Even so, I fell head over heels for this man who showered me with compliments and got me drunk on Smirnoff Ice. I felt like such a grown-up when Marcus took me to a casino on our day off. We stayed overnight in a hotel room together, and he was so respectful when I requested a room with 2 beds. That night, in full-length pajamas and my head on his chest, I noticed that Marcus had a tattoo of a beautiful angel with Maria written underneath. I asked him who Maria was, assuming it was his mother. Don't Italian boys get tattoos of their moms' names? Instead of answering me, he pushed my hair behind my ear and kissed me. I felt so drunk with love that I didn't even think this was strange. One afternoon near the end of the summer, I noticed Marcus having a solemn phone conversation in the other room. With his head hung, Marcus told me that he'd just gotten off the phone with Maria, his fiancée. My mind raced while everything clicked into place. All those murmurs, that tattoo, the elephant in the room, the fact that everybody knew but me, was that Marcus was engaged. Like all the great male manipulators over time, he convinced me that they were having problems. Like, he didn't want to get married. He didn't love her. I looked into his piercing blue eyes and selfishly chose to believe him. For the prom dance on the last night of camp, I slipped into a size 6 Marc Jacobs strapless dress and couldn't help but laugh. To my amazement, I didn't look like a sausage casing at all. I had been so caught up in my fat camp love affair that I didn't even realize I wasn't fat anymore. When Marcus and I danced to This Year's Love by David Gray, the lyrics punctuated the moment perfectly. Because it takes something more this time than sweet, sweet lies before I open up my arms and fall. It felt like a cross between She's All That and A Walk to Remember. I wasn't the duff, the designated ugly fat friend any longer. I was in a single-digit dress size and the leading lady in my PG-13 rom-com. It was everything I had ever wanted. The next morning, Marcus drove me to the airport. We sat inside, tearful and largely silent. What was there to say? I couldn't imagine not seeing him again, but I didn't want to bring him into my world either. Could he really be my date to my sorority's Great Gatsby cocktail dance? Could I see him sitting next to me in church or hunting with my dad? For the first time, I understood that Marcus and I could only exist in that finite time and place. It felt like I'd been hypnotized by the concept that someone could find me desirable, and the second my airplane touched down in Dallas, I awoke from this trance. I walked to baggage claim, lighter in every possible way. I felt out of love as quickly as I felt in love, and in the process realized that's not what love is. Over in AIM chat, Marcus told me he wanted to call off the wedding so we could be together. I told him there wasn't a chance in hell. Less than a month later, Marcus was married. He called me when he got home from his honeymoon. I didn't answer, but my heart was broken. Not for me, for Maria. Almost a year later, I looked up Marcus on Facebook and saw a picture of Maria for the first time. She had long, dark hair, olive skin, and a pretty smile. She looked exactly like a 30-year-old version of me. It's been 8 years, but I still think of that summer often. I realized it was never about the 15 pounds. It never is about the 15 fucking pounds. That summer taught me that you can have your heart broken and still be okay. That moments of foolishness make you wise. that part of dating is learning what you don't want, and that you have to love yourself before anyone worthwhile ever will. I still struggle with blaming carbohydrates for all my problems, and I far too often define my self-worth by my dress size, but I know who I am today. A girl with a strong mind and a sharp tongue who doesn't take shit from anybody. I may have kissed a fool, but I'll never let a kiss fool me again.